When Russia invaded Ukraine in early 2022, world leaders promised swift consequences. Sanctions were rolled out, hundreds of companies pulled out, banks were frozen, assets were seized, and oil pipelines were shut off. The message was clear: cripple the economy and collapse the war machine. But here we are in 2025, and Russia's economy is still standing. In fact, according to official data, Russia's economy is growing. So what's going on? How has Russia avoided economic collapse despite sanctions, war, and global isolation? And is this growth real, or is it just a short-term illusion? In this video, we're going to investigate. Now, according to Russia's own data, GDP fell just 1.2% in 2022. But in 2023, it rebounded by over 3.6%, and by 2024, it had surged to over 4% growth, more than most of Europe. So has Russia won the economic war? Not quite. Most of its growth has been fueled by wartime spending. The government is injecting cash into the economy at record levels. Military contracts, pension increases, war bonuses, social transfers. This flood of rubles, has kept factories busy and workers employed. Real wages are up. Unemployment is officially under 4%. It's what some economists call military Keynesianism. Spend your way through crisis. But here's the catch: that kind of growth can mask a lot of deep economic pain. Now, let's talk about Russia's real economic engine, fossil fuels. Despite sanctions, Russia continues to export massive volumes of oil and gas. And they're not just going to Europe anymore. Instead, they're going to countries like China, India, and Turkey, who stepped in. Today, around 40% of Russian oil goes to China, while another 38% goes to India. They buy it cheap, they buy it at a discount, but they buy a lot. And Russia's still making money. Even with the G7's $60 per barrel price cap, oil revenues remain strong. Creative shipping workarounds like shadow fleets and third-party traders help get around restrictions. Gas is a touch trickier because Europe has drastically reduced its imports. But Russia still sells LNG and pipeline gas to Turkey, the Balkans, and yes, even some EU countries under exemptions. So while energy profits are down from 2022 highs, they're still Russia's financial lifeline, bringing in hundreds of millions of euros per day. And another reason the economy hasn't collapsed: Russia was preparing. After being hit with sanctions back in 2014, the Kremlin started pushing for economic self-reliance. Western food imports were banned and domestic farming exploded. By 2023, Russia was nearly fully self-sufficient in staple foods: meat, dairy, wheat, potatoes, and not just feeding itself, exporting too. Agricultural exports hit $43 billion in 2023, but that's now facing pressure too. Turkey briefly banned Russian wheat. The EU sanctioned ships accusing of carrying around stolen Ukrainian grain. A rough harvest in 2024 reduced exports by nearly 20%. Still, agriculture remains a stabilizer, especially for rural Russia. It's one of the few sectors where sanctions may have actually made the country stronger in the short term. But here is where things get strange. Despite sanctions and isolation, consumer spending in Russia is booming. Wages are up, disposable income is up, and borrowing is through the roof. But why? Because the government is pumping money into households. More pensions, bigger subsidies, war bonuses. It's a short-term sugar rush, but inflation is rising fast. By 2025, inflation is hovering around 10%, and interest rates are at 20%, the highest in 2 decades. Now, the Russian central bank is trying to put on the brakes, but it's in a bind. Raise rates to fight inflation, you kill growth, or you keep rates low and let inflation spiral. And everyday Russians, they're the ones who are paying the price. Food prices have soared. Even basics like potatoes have doubled in price. Rent is up, private debt is rising. So while wages look higher, real living standards are still being squeezed. And there is another issue: labour. Russia is running out of workers. Between military conscription, war deaths, emigration, and a shrinking population, the country is facing a massive workforce shortage. Factories are struggling to stay fully staffed. Industrial output is being propped up with overtime, government orders, and migrant labour, but that's not sustainable. On top of that, foreign investment is gone. Russia is locked out of Western tech, financing, and global innovation hubs. While China has been able to fill some gaps, it's not a full replacement, and analysts are warning this its economic medal may be hitting its ceiling. So, is Russia actually in a recession? By technical definition, no. GDP is rising, wages are rising, and unemployment is low. But some economists are starting to call this growth artificial. One analyst put it bluntly: Russia's economy is on budgetary steroids. And in early 2025, growth has already slowed down dramatically. Budget deficits are climbing, oil revenues are falling, and the Kremlin has admitted the economy is overheating. Russia's war economy is running hot, but it's fragile. So, to conclude, Russia's economy hasn't collapsed yet. It's been propped up by war spending, high oil exports, domestic self-sufficiency, and a pivot to the east. But beneath the surface, cracks are forming. Soaring inflation, falling commodity prices, labour shortages, and growing isolation. This isn't a miracle economy. It's a high-stakes balancing act, powered by political will and not market strength. And the real question is, how long can this really last?